Hey friends, it is Lane with Tim's Nation. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the grand tournament I played in this past weekend. I went to Cincinnati and played in the CagBash annual GT. That's 5 rounds over 2 days of 40K action. I took the DeathWatch. Went pretty well. I did pretty good, all things considered. The list I've ran on the channel here the last couple weeks, I used that list. I'll go through it kind of briefly here. But I ended up going 4-1, so I'm not going to keep you in suspense there. Spoiler alert, that's what happened. I went 4-1, ended up in 4th place. Once again, avoided getting a trophy for playing 40K. Made sure not to get that yet. I got to save that that experience for myself. So as of yet, I still have never gotten a trophy for playing 40K. I've gotten some nice trophies for painting and that sort of thing, and I've won some RTTs. Any events I've ever won or placed in, there's never been a trophy for me. And so there's no 4th place trophy this past weekend, so I didn't get that. Last year, they had about 80 players. This year, only 32 started the tournament, so they had a lower turnout than usual. But still, I'm pretty happy with 4th out of 32. The only loss I had was the person who won the whole thing. So the only time I lost was the person who took 1st place. And in our game, I gave him his lowest score of the tournament. So out of all of his games, his lowest score is only played into me. So yeah, good experience. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to talk a little bit about the overall experience and how everything went and how they run things there. It's CagBash, it's Cincinnati Arsenal Gaming is the group that put it on. I'm going to talk a little bit about the whole experience of the thing and the painting and all that stuff. And then I'll go through and talk about my individual games if you're interested to see or hear how the DeathWatch performed in those. And then after that, I'll kind of talk about some key points that my army and how they performed over the weekend. So first of all, I think this was the 13th or 18th of the annual tournament here. Cincinnati Arsenal Gaming has been putting on this GT for quite some time now. Usually have pretty good turnout. What I really appreciate about the way they do things is that they make sure there's lots of prize support, both for playing the game and for painting, and a bunch of door prizes and things. Most of the time when I go to a GT, no matter how big it is, there's one prize for paint, and they gave out a bunch of prizes and ribbons and things. So when it came to painting, last year I actually got best painted at this event for my DeathWatch. I put a display board up with that and everything. So last year I actually got best painted, won the trophy for that. This year, because you can't submit the same army for best painted twice. So I was playing my DeathWatch last year and playing again this year. So I took my Crute and put them up on a display board. They ran a bunch of different, essentially judged painting competitions. They had an overall paint. They had a best display board, like an army is on parade type of contest, and then they would judge your individual units as well. So you could pick like large model, small model, like a character, a squad, and then they judged for the whole army on display, then an overall paint award, and they had different ribbons and things for those. So I did not get any of the major painting prizes. The person who got best painted, Jordy, had an absolutely amazing Imperial Knights army with so many conversions and so much freehand paint, and a 2-story, amazing, gorgeous display board. I wasn't able to grab a picture of it. I forgot to grab a picture while it was on display, but like his Imperial Knights have like lights and things. He had a Lancer, the one with the big shield. So he built his own custom shield and had lights on it, so it was illuminated. And Canis Rex had a snake tail for his legs, but instead of the arms, the snake tail was wrapped around a Lehman Russ, and it had like lights flickering in a smokestack. It was just, it was amazing. And a ton of freehand work. Super cool. I also got to play against him, and he was a super good guy. So he got best painted, and I absolutely deserved it. The nice thing is that they passed out some ribbons for people who did well, but maybe didn't win 1st place. So I got a gold ribbon for my display board, which was my Crute. If you guys remember, I have a 2,000 point Crute army that I've played on the channel a couple times. I did submit that to Armies on Parade last year at the GW store and took 3rd place. So I got a gold ribbon for that. Cincinnati Arsenal Gaming, for some reason, their thing is pigs. I don't know why. I suppose I should ask them why. But the little ribbons, there should be a picture up here on the screen. The ribbons have little pigs on them, so I'm very proud of my little pig ribbons. So I got a gold ribbon for my display board and a silver ribbon for unit. I submitted my my Talon Strike kill team for best unit, and got a little ribbon for that. So I really appreciate the fact that they recognize paint, not just at the top level, but lots of recognizing paint and lots of levels, because it takes a tremendous amount of work to put together a GT ready, painted and based list. And I'm really glad that this was a GT where they really respected that and made sure to reward a lot of people. Even if it's just a ribbon, it's nice to say, hey, thanks for, putting together a good looking army to bring here. So I really appreciate they did that. The other thing I really appreciate that they did is they had swag, guys. The last 4 or 5 GTs I've been to, there's like no swag. Prize support's usually good. They give out prizes, that sort of thing, but you don't really get much when you just for signing up. And so this event, they had lots of nice little things they gave away. The ticket itself was $50, plus you had to pay $30 for going to the con, because there was a con going on there at the same time. So there's lots of other stuff to see and do, and vendors and that sort of thing. Other games if you had time to get to those. But yeah, so you got, first of all, you got a nice set of Baron of Dice. There we go. Got a nice set of Baron of Dice. You could pick from them. They had 7 or 8 different kinds. I had a bunch of them. So because I'm starting an Imperial Guard army, I got the Astra Militarum dice. So that was just included for free. Plus there's some objective markers, some deployment zone markers, and a measuring widget. All this stuff they just kind of give out for free as being part of the tournament. I'm the kind of guy who loves my free stuff. So that's how you can go right to my heart, is that free stuff. So I really appreciate that they were doing that, because I just haven't seen that at many big events for a while. It's been a while since I've seen people doing that. So I thank them for that as well. And oh man, now I lost my train of thought. It's totally gone. It's left me. And then we get to the actual playing of the games. Oh, dice. That's what I want to talk about, dice. As you guys know, I like trading dice with people when I go to major events, sometimes even at minor events. And I had a perfect score on this event in terms that I got to trade dice with 5 out of 5 opponents. And got some very cool dice out of it. I love this. This is part of the reason why I got my own custom dice with my name on them made for trading them, this kind of thing, because it's fun to trade things. So a couple of the dice I got, one was as a die. Apparently, the people that run this tournament, when they got married, two of the people that run the tournament, Sean and Britt, when they got married, for like the party favors or the guest favors, at their wedding, they had custom dice made with their names and the date of their wedding on it. So one of the people I played was a good friend of theirs. He had some of these. So when we traded dice, he gave me one of their wedding dice, which is just awesome and nerdy and delightful. I love it. I also had played against, I said, the guy who got best painted. He has his own paint studio, and his logo is a T-Rex, so he had some of his own custom dice. He had some nice giveaways too for everybody who played, for like little buttons and things with the paint studio on it. But I picked I traded dice with him and had one of his dice with his paint studio on it. So a couple other fun ones, a dumpster fire dice, an Eldar dice, a few of those things in there. So again, very happy with my perfect 5 out of 5 trades for dice. And then let's get to the actual games themselves. I'll have to check my notes here a little bit. But yeah, as far as how they run the tournament, standard tournament, not always super competitive, because occasionally they make a few decisions that don't feel like top competitive decisions when it comes to judging and that sort of thing, and how they award prizes. But other than that, it was super fun. And like I said, there's lots of prize support. So let's go through my games here. So first of all, the DeathWatch list I took is something I've run on the channel the last couple of weeks here. It's for big units. There's a DeathWatch Indomitor kill team. There's a Talon Strike kill team. There's a 10-man DeathWatch Veterans, a 5-man DeathWatch Veterans. We have the Watchmaster with Thief of Secrets. We have a Judicar with a Beacon Angelus. So he can rapid ingress, heroically intervene, and fight first if I'm getting charged by someone. We also, the captain with Jump Pack was leading the Talon Strike, and he had the Tome of Ectoclades. I also had an Inquisitor leading the Indomitor kill team, so anytime that team was the subject of a strat, I rolled a D6, and on a 3-up, I gained a CP. That was a huge thing this weekend, generated a lot of CP, and in most games, I used all my CP on Armor Contempt whenever I could, Overwatch whenever I could, throwing grenades if I needed to hit something, but just having the extra CP that Inquisitor generated for me was a big deal. There were times when I considered dropping him because like, oh, this is just kind of cute. But no, it was definitely worth it. So I'm glad he was in the list there. 2 Phobos lieutenants. Of course, they were leading 2 squads of Reavers. I had a squad of Jump Pack intercessors, had an ATV, had a Rhino. And the Thunderstrike Speeder, taking me +1 to wound into vehicles. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2 little units, but that was mostly the big hitting units were just Talon Strike, Indominator, and the 2 Deathwatch veterans. I wanted to squeeze in some more heavy hitting, maybe a Terminator squad or something, but I feel like I needed the scoring units. And throughout the tournament, they provided, they worked pretty well for me. So let's go through the individual games. So here we go. First game, played against Cade, and Cade was running Space Wolves. This was the only game of the tournament. I'm not trying to put down my opponent here, but it was the only game of the tournament that was kind of easy on my part. And as I found out when we were done, Cade confided in me that he accidentally submitted the wrong list. In BCP, when he submitted his list, he accidentally put the wrong one in there. And just a day or two before the tournament, when he looked at what he had submitted, he realized he'd submitted the wrong one. So I had to make some adjustments there. And he had to build and paint a couple models at the last minute because so he kind of admitted that his list was not the most optimal build. He did have, Space Wolves, he had, I forget the Bjorn, I think the fell-handed, the character Dreadnought. He had 2 maxed out squads of Thunderwolf Cav with the characters attached to him. And then he had 2 Gladiator Lancers, and then just a lot of other smaller stuff. So when it came time to hit, I picked up, the damage on my kill teams is pretty strong into things like Thunderwolf because just a high volume of attacks, both my shooting and the fighting from the Deathwatch vets. So I think turn 2, I was able to pick up Bjorn and a full squad of the Thunderwolves, and then the next turn I was able to pick up the rest of the Thunderwolves and pick up a Lancer. And at that point, we didn't have much hitting units left, so I was able to really control the game at that point. My uppy downy allowed me to get the eyes on the targets when I needed to shoot things. The Space Wolf, Thunderwolf units are pretty big, especially if you can drop in and just see one of their characters and know that no matter what you put into it, you can't pick up the character, so you should be able to chew through them. So a pretty effective game. I won 95-52. Again, Cade was a great guy. I feel bad for him because he had submitted the wrong list and had to take whatever it was he submitted, and so it was not exactly optimal. So I definitely feel for him, but he was a great guy. We had a great time. The second game was into Imperial Knights. This is Jordy. This is the guy that won Best Paint for his amazing army. Like I said, just really impressively painted Imperial Knights army. He had Canis Rex. He had a Lancer, the Cerastus Lancer. So that's the big one that's mostly close combat, has a 4-up invuln all the time, 25 wounds, so hard to chew through. And then just a bunch of armigers, some Warglaves and some Helvrins. He didn't have any allies, no assassins or any Imperial Agent type allies, just the Knights. So turn 1, we were pretty cagey. Turn 2, I was able to uppy downy get eyes on the Lancer and some of the armigers. So before he was able to do anything, my first strike, I picked up the Lancer. Kind of lucky on that one. He probably failed a few more of his invuln saves than he should have. So it allowed me to pick up the Lancer and 2 Helvrins, or two of the armigers. So, almost 800 points there. And obviously in a slapback, it ended up being a fairly close game. He did try to do a secret mission at the end of the game. He was able to pull it off, but it was still kept the score was still relatively close, pretty close actually. I won 84-77. So even though I did an enormous amount of damage, Knights are really strong. Just that high OC and the ability to move far means they can take objectives and score really well. So, and they do have a pretty good damage output right now. So Canis Rex is a beast. I went really hot into, like I said, picked up the Lancer and a couple armigers really quickly, but I was never able to kill Canis. Did some damage to him, got him down, but never able to finish him off, and just had to play around that for the rest of the game. So great game. Again, great opponent. Had a blast. Close win there. But feel good about it. The Imperial Knights, they are strong right now. They've taken down some big tournaments. My third game, I played into Eldar. This was Peter and his Eldar. Peter's a really good player. He's won some GTs that I've been at. And the Eldar, he was playing, I think, the War Host. He had mostly infantry in some transports. I don't remember everything because I had not studied Eldar up until this point, the new Eldar. And so I got kind of frustrated throughout the game because I didn't understand everything they could do, and they just had a lot of damage output. He had 25 Dark Reapers, 2 10-mans and a 5-man. They're flat 3 damage. Essentially crack missiles, except they're flat 3 damage. Meaning, guess what, guys? They're great into my Space Marines. They really hurt my Space Marines bad. Plus, he had Azraman and all his shenanigans of doing his once per game. His gun becomes 3 damage and anti-infantry 3 up and dev wounds. And then he did sustained, and he had 6 shots hit on 2s, and he procced on 5s because of the strat he used, and flipped 1 to a 6 because of the shrine token from the unit he was with, and had full rerolls because they got out of a transport that gives them the fire support. I forget which one it is, the Falcon maybe, that gives them the reroll wounds when they get out of it. And basically that character, that Azraman, shot and picked up 9 of my Indomitor kill team guys in one blast. Just 9 of the guys gone. He had 6 shots, but he was proccing sustained on 5s. He could flip one of those to a 6, one of his rolls to a 6. So he just rolled hot, got 11 hits, and then with rerolls to wound, got 9, 3 damage, devastating anti-infantry wounds. So just blurped me off the table. We're still playing out the game. Still a pretty good game. Eldar are really strong. I'm going to have to study up on them more and see exactly how I want to play into them. He won that game 76-55. So it wasn't exactly a blowout, but 21-point win is a pretty strong win. But again, now Peter, the guy I played against, like I said, he's a really good player, and Eldar are really good right now. He ended up winning the whole event. So the only person I lost to was the person who won the whole thing. And like I said, he scored 76 in our game, and that was his lowest score for the tournament. So that's my consolation prize. I kept him to his lowest score through the whole event. Because there were so few people, he was the only person that went undefeated, so it didn't really matter what his point scores were, but that's how I'm going to make myself feel a little bit better about that. So that was the end of day 1. We went 2-1. Started day 2, my 4th game. I played into Ben. Ben brought orcs. So when you're playing in these games, guys, when you're playing in tournaments or with your friends, you need to remember all the things. One of the things you need to remember is secret missions. Most of the time, you're not going to do them, but you need to recognize when it is time to do them. The other thing you need to recognize, which I recognize in this game, is when you need to do fixed secondaries. Ben was running orcs. Ben was running, I forget what it is. It's just the detachment with all the boys. He had 80 boys, 4 20-mans of boys, plus Gazgul, and then 3 the battle wagons, and then just a bunch of characters. So he had 8 or 9 characters, just a ton of them. He didn't have very many units because he didn't bring any small scoring units. He really had 4 20-mans of boys. Each one of those had 2 characters attached. The ones that were riding around the battle wagons had the Pain Boys and War Boss, and then the ones that were not in battle wagons had the Weird Boys, so he could jump them around the table for their mobility. And then Gazgul had a 2-man of Mega Armor Knobs and Makari with him, and they were in a battle wagon, and that was it. 3 battle wagons, 4 big units of boys with characters, and Gazgul with characters. He didn't have a lot of secondary scoring stuff. But when I looked at his army, I figured out really quickly I was going to take Assassinate because it had so many characters, and Call the Horde because he had 4 20-mans. That means 5 points for each of those that I kill, hoping to table him. The important thing, obviously, because I had the potential to max out secondaries going into him, because tons of characters first of all, and then second, the boys are just tons of boys. But I knew what his battle plan was going to be. It was going to be push everything at me as fast as possible, meaning if I tried to bop around the table and score secondaries with other secondaries, it was going to really get at me. He, which I forget what mission we were playing. Oh, it was Scorched Earth. We were playing Scorched Earth. So the most I could score by holding objectives at one time would be 10. And what I really planned on was being able to control the board later in the game with my uppy downies. So I basically just decided I was going to hold one objective most of the first 3 turns there. And I posted up. I kept most everything on the table. even things like the Reavers and stuff, because I wasn't worried about them scoring. What I wanted to do is make sure he didn't get into my big juicy units before I wanted him to. And so I lined up jump intercessors and Reavers and everything to block his charges. His only really shooting in the whole army was coming off the battle wagons. And obviously, because they're orc shooting hit on 5s, it's very inconsistent. So I basically lined up a bunch of my cheap units to just absorb the impact of his first charges. And then, that allowed my kill teams to do the work and do the damage. And it worked pretty well for most of the games. I chewed through his lists pretty quickly. The most difficult thing was the pain boys on those lists, on the big orc mobs, because they gave them 5-up feel no pains. I forget the name of the detachment. Basically gave all his boys 5-up invulns. Until they were less than 10 man, so it made them, they always had the invulns, they always had the 5-up feel no pains, at least on the 2 units that had pain boys. I just made it a lot to chew through, but I was able to do it. The anti-infantry 2-up on a kill team is really strong for the shooting. So put that in the Indomitors so that they are just wounding on 2s with everything they've got. It's putting a tremendous volume of filer in there. And I'm really just scoring 5 on primaries each turn and just killing his army as fast as I could. It made for a very simple game for both of us. His game was just to push everything forward as fast as possible, as hard as possible. And my job was to just kill it as soon as it came at me. Definitely some old school, just kill him first type of Warhammer. Now, he was outscoring on primaries, obviously, because he had stuff all over the board. He wasn't doing great on secondaries because, again, he didn't have that many units to do it with. And what happens, I scored 5 on most of my turns. I did make one mistake here in the game where I pushed my Judicar unit with 10 DeathWatch vets. I charged them into a mob of 20 boys. At the same time, I charged Gazcall with my DeathWatch veterans led by the Watchmaster. This was a mistake because he had 4 CP, so he could easily interrupt. So I hit Gazcall first, got him down to just 3 wounds. He CP re-rolled a failed save to keep him at 3 wounds, and then he interrupted and blasted through that Deathwatch vet squad. Picked up all 10 guys except for the Judicar when he slapped. Luckily, I was able to use Judicar to precision out the pain boy from that squad, so that was a lucky go there. But that almost cost me the game right there because that was a huge loss on my turn. I should have just kept the Judicar and his squad out there and not charged them, because I would have fought first when he charged me, and he didn't have that much shooting to do that much work into them. So it would have been better for me to just charge the Watchmaster and then leave him out there. So I'll know that for next time. Still, end of the game, I was able to uppy downy once we got to turn 4 and start scoring some primary. I was able to uppy downy onto his home field objective and burn that one for the 10 extra points there. So I ended up with a 90. Maxed out secondaries, obviously killed all the boys. I tabled them by the end of the game, killed all the boys, killed everything, killed all the characters. And then every turn I scored 5 on primaries until the last turn, turn 5, I did score 10 on primaries, but then I scored 15 on the burning, after burning 1. His deployment zone in turn 4. On turn 5, I burned one of the ones in no man's land. So 90 to 71. Again, relatively close, 19-point game. So if I had not charged that Judicar in there, it would give me an advantage there. But I got to remember how that Judicar works. So a great game in the Bend, a great opponent. We had a fantastic time. And then finally, last game after going 3-1, I played into Tau. This was Tau. I think it's Monka, the one that they have their advantage the first 3 turns of the game. They have advance and shoot, and they have assault on other guns and lethal hits on everything. Played an extremely cagey game with Noah. Both of us trying not to put anything out there. This was Purge the Foe, so definitely some swings and killing. Both of us were just trying to hold one objective most of the time and not put too much out there on the objectives to get killed. Obviously, both of us had a really strong shooting threat. He had a bunch of breachers, I think 3 squads of breachers. He had 3 riptides. So he had a ton of shooting that would just shred my infantry. The Riptides and their flat 4 damage guns just pick up my Gravis and my Talon Strike really quickly. So came down to a few key moments here. My Watchmaster was holed up in a mid objective here, or mid not objective, but on the train, and he had a riptide that was just 19 inches away from me. So about turn 3, I rolled. Okay, the Watchmaster is going to advance. I rolled my d6 on the advance, and I got a 6, so I got a 12, which meant I'd have a 7-inch charge into that thing through the terrain. And I rolled that 6, and I was like, I guess it's time to go. So I moved them out there into the middle of the table, all exposed. Just had a 7-inch charge to make. Failed it with the reroll. So the Watchmaster and his guys just got aced the next turn because he just had so much firepower to put into him. But a really, really close game. Just came down to the fact that we ran out of time. We weren't on a clock. I definitely feel like he used more time in his movement phase and his shooting phase. He had so many shots and so much stuff he was moving. But we were only able to complete turn 4. Based on what the judge ruled. That means we just based it on our score at the time. So I did win 74-72. If we had played out turn 5, he would have tabled me and would have won. But that's just the way it goes. I myself was the victim of that a month or two ago at Battlegrounds to Board Games. Played a really good RTT game where my opponent, Nathan, he ended up winning because we ran out of time. I don't remember whose fault that was because I was kind of confused as why we ran out of time. Didn't seem like either of us was playing particularly slowly. We ran out of time. We only completed turn 4. He won based on the score at that time. However, we both agreed that I would have won if we played one more turn, just based on positioning and the secondaries and everything. So, and that worked against me that time. This time it worked for me. The fact that we ran out of time and got the 2-point win there. So that finished my tournament at 4-1. Came in 4th place. Like I said, no trophies for 4th place, guys. Still no trophy for playing 40K for playing. Like I said, I got some nice stuff for painting though. But yeah, so overall, man, I would really like to squeeze one more Indomitor kill team into this unit, or maybe just a squad of Terminator or something into the list. Obviously did well. Several of my games were close though, so really only had one kind of overwhelming victory. But the takeaways were the Inquisitor attaching to the Indomitor gave me so many command points. And the fact is that he has that 18-inch 2d6 flamer, means that sometimes he can just pick up a few things. So in that last game with Tau, there was one model remaining from a breacher squad. And so I split fire from my unit, the Indomitors into 3 different units. I just put the Inquisitor into him with the flamers, picked up that guy for 1 kill, and it killed a couple other units. I ended up getting kill more that turn by 1, just thanks to that Inquisitor just being able to flame out one guy from 18 inches away. But obviously it was the CP generation that was a huge deal throughout that tournament consistently. He rolled pretty average, 2 out of every 3 rolls because he scored me a CP on a 3-up. But I used all my CP throughout the tournament and definitely made use of those through using Armor Contempt. Maybe it was an Overwatch. Maybe it was throwing grenades or something. Rerolling charges just when I really needed it. So I do not regret having him on the list. He's definitely going to stay in there. And like I said, keep your eye out for when it's time to take fixed secondaries. It was game 4 when I played the Orc player, Ben, and he said that I was the first person in the tournament to take that. Now, not every list is designed to chew through hordes as well as I can, especially Orcs are T5, so sometimes it's kind of a struggle to blend that many Orcs, but having my anti-infantry 2-up guns definitely helps with that. My full rerolls for my DeathWatch vet squads helps with that. So, but yeah, I don't feel like any of my victories were overwhelming in any way. So I definitely want to keep fine-tuning the list for next time. I just want to see if I can squeeze one more hitting unit in there. I'm just worried about what I have to sacrifice to do that. One of the things I figured out when trying to go into hard targets was giving the whole army lethals when I pop off my lethals. However, because I had the Thunderstrike Speeder and the Talon Strike with their twin-link plasmas, I gave the whole unit, this is what I did when I went into the Imperial Knights. I gave the whole army their lethals by popping off that mission tactic, but I spent 1 CP on the Talon Strike using the captain attached to them to do it for free. Spent 1 CP on them to give them sustained instead of the lethals, because the Thunderstrike Speeder hits the target they're going to go after, gives them +1 to wound in the vehicles and monsters. So the Thunderstrike Speeder shot the Lancer, gave them +1 to wound, meaning they were wounding on 4s, but they had twin linked. So in that case, the sustained netted me more damage than if I went lethals, because wounding on 4s, re-rolling means that every 6 I rolled in the hit roll would generate 1.5 wounds, where every 6 I rolled if I had lethal would just generate 1, based on average dice. So something I kind of figured out when I need to go into those harder targets was to actually do the sustained on a talent strike when they were getting the +1 to wound. If they weren't getting the +1 to wound, lethal, sustained, probably about the same. But when they were getting the +1 to wound from the speeder, sustain was better on them because they were more likely to generate that into more wounds. So anyways, had a great time. Lots of lovely swag. Last year I had gotten best painted at this thing, and they had not been able to send me my prize, which is a bunch of paint. So they gave me a $100 gift card to one of the vendors. I didn't get to spend it to the end, so I was kind of running around, but I bought a whole bunch of bones. I took home a big old bag of bones. Someone 3D printed a bunch of skeletal remains of like a big dragon. So I'm going to use those for some display boards. There should be some pictures up here, just a ton of them that I'm able to use. I'm going to use them for maybe a Kroot display board. I also want to build a cave for my Votan, and they might be in that cave, have some bones in there as well. So anyways, had a great time. And glad we went 4-1 with the DeathWatch. See if we can do even better next time. All right, guys, have a good one.